deal with that. Now, once we create the resource group, after that, okay, add button, and you have a ton of different options that you can use. These come by default, and a lot of them, well, these are paid options. So you can actually edit this and go to a free option, but I'm just going to start here. Basic virtual machine, the first machine. A region is central, US central, but you can select a different region. I wouldn't do that. If the subscription is in region, in one region, I will, okay, not sure what happened here, but I'm gonna leave it in the video. Okay, so compute again, virtual machine, my first machine. Okay, I'm gonna leave your central, the region as the same. No infrastructure redundancy required. So this goes into the multi-AZ, the thing that we talked about in the high availability chapter. So you can specify where you, what kind of availability that you want, like what kind of redundancy you want. Microsoft works completely differently. So here, the availability zone, you get the option of choosing 1, 2, or 3 availability zone. In the other two providers, you can select the actual availability zone. The other thing to note here, the availability zones are only available in certain regions. It's not available everywhere. So like Middle East, I selected, the availability zone option is not there. But you can use the virtual machine scale set, you can use availability set, which are once again other ways of providing redundancy. But I just wanted to point out, like, uh, what is this called? Azure is a lot slower to release their features than the other two providers. All right, we're not going to use any infrastructure redundancy. We're going to keep the same image. Ubuntu is free. The Spot instances, which are available all across 3 uh, cloud providers, and they're basically spare capacity that has not been bought explicitly by customers. So those machines are just sitting idle. So all these 3 providers give an option to buy that capacity as a very reduced rate. But the caveat that comes with it is you cannot control like when that machine shuts down. So basically, if there is capacity, the machine will stay up. If the capacity, like somebody else needs the capacity, the machine will shut down. So click here for available options, change size. We are not going to use a big machine. We're just going to take a small machine. And you got to pay attention, like don't worry about these code names. We are going with virtual CPU 1 and RAM 1. The rest of the stuff doesn't really matter. Well, it matters, but we don't have to worry about it right now. Now, SSH public key. If you guys remember the first machine that we created in AWS, so AWS, when you create a machine, you have to ask AWS to create a key for you. You don't get the option of creating a password. And when you create that key, I refer to them as lock and key, and I refer to the public key as the lock, and that sits on the actual server, while the private key is the key to open that lock, and that sits on your local machine. So those the key combination, Amazon doesn't really give you an option to create it. It can be created and you can use a separate key, but by default, it doesn't give you that option. Google, by default, manages those keys for you. So you don't have to worry about them. Here, you can create a key pair, and it's pretty simple and straight how to create those key pairs. It's basically SSH minus keychain RSA. I don't think RSA. Just SSH, and basically you just say, so I'm not going to use, it's going to rewrite my default key. So non-default key, and I'll create right here. Now here for the key, you can provide a password. I'm gonna leave it blank, and it will depend on what kind of machine that you're dealing with. If it's 10 machines you're setting up that you just want to do administration, you won't worry too much about it. But if it's like a very important machine, you would want to use the passphrase here. Okay, and now this key is created. So right here, non-default key. So this is the private key. Oh, yeah, cat it. And if I wanted to use this key, uh, this stays on my machine. So when we said SSH minus I, this is the key I would use. While this non-default key, well, non-default public key is what I would take and paste it here if I wanted to use that option. But I am not going to right now. Let's just keep it as simple as possible. I have the password saved. Now the password here is values between 12 characters. So that's really annoying. You need one lowercase, one uppercase. Like these can be set in AWS and Google. Here they enforce it by default. Okay, so next one, inbound port rules. So these are basically the firewalls or security groups that we talk about. If you select to create it here, allow selected ports, it will open the SSH22 port, which is what we need for administration. You can also open HTTP, Google gave us the option to open HTTP and HTTPS by default. Here it gives the option of SSH22. But here it's going to open that port to the whole world, which we don't want to do in almost any case. But this is our test setup and we need to connect to that machine. So I am going to let it be. And then we go to the disk. Now in the disk, we have different types. So premium SSD is basically the high ops SSD in AWS. Standard SSD is the standard SSD, and standard HDD is basically the spinning disk. Same analogy everywhere else. So you can attach additional disks, which again, we are not going to do. Next, networking. So now, this is a Wind River RG VNet. This is basically the VPC, or VPC as in AWS sense, and network in Google sense. So if you look at this right now, so they are, okay, I absolutely do not like this. Virtual networks. We go to virtual networks. There is no network available right now, but it will get created as part of our instance creation. Did it close my? I think it did. Okay, let's see if we have it still available. I don't think it is. It is not possible. Next, networking. Now, this is the part that I wanted to show you guys. This was not created by default. Okay, this time, let me make sure. Open a new tab. The last time I tried to do this, it did the exact same thing and kicked me out of that screen. Nice. Okay, so what I was trying to do was trying to show you guys virtual networks that it's not created, but when I say open in the new window, it did not open in the new window. It just opened that window right here, and all the work that I've done is gone, and it's not saved anywhere, so I'm gonna have to start over. So I'm gonna pause and once again come back to the place where we were and go from there. All right, back here. So basically what I was trying to show was that Wind River RG virtual network does not exist. Then the subnet, well, the network does not exist, so the subnet is not going to be there. So the subnet that is going to create is going to be 10.0.0.0 slash 24. Now, this is basically the top subnet that we have, but here the size of it is very small. That 24 indicates the size of the subnet. It's a little more complicated that, and I might delve into that in this course itself. But like right now, if that number is 24, uh, it has 250 IPs that can be created under that network. If you lower that number, it can be lower up to 8. And as you lower the number, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, the lower the number, the more IP addresses that you can create under the network. The higher the number, the highest is 32. And if that number is 32, that means it's an IP address. 31, you can create 4 machines. 30, you can create 8 machines. But this is a little advanced topic. If that's an existing subnet, if you say create new, then you can create a new subnet. Public IP, I'm just going to let it assign a public IP. This is what you would need for connecting from outside. NIC, network security group, we are not going to use any, but these are basically the firewalls that we talked about. Public in the inbound ports, this is the SSH22 that we specified on the first page. Now, once again, we're specifying it on this page. Accelerated networking, we won't talk about it. Load balancing, advanced topic. I have no idea what this is, but we are going to, actually I do, but you guys can just ignore it unless you get into advanced security. This is what I was talking about when I said when you go to create an instance in Azure, you have to go through 15 screens. This cloud init is similar to user data. There's a similar thing in Google Cloud where you can install or just do whatever admin activities that you want to do. And I think with the AWS, I use the example yum install Postgres and yum install PHP. So these are not actual commands, but this is what will get executed automatically as root user once the machine comes up. Okay, host group, we don't have any host group, proximity placement group. This is about, host group is about logically grouping machines. Proximity placement group is physically grouping machine, like the same options exist in the other two providers. Also VM generation, Gen 1, Gen 2. So this is interesting, UEFI based boot architecture. This has been available with regular machine for the longest time, and quite a few things go in there, but the very basic thing, UEFI, unless you have your boot disk formatted as UEFI, you cannot make your operating system disk more than 2 terabytes. And this is something they didn't have for the longest time, and it just got added. So tags, name, our remarks. Azure is weird. All right, next review and create. And now it's saying you have SSH open to the world. So I'm like, fine. Okay, now once again, running final validations. So the same thing that we're trying to do in AWS and Google. AWS took short time, Google takes more time, and now here it's taking the longest time doing this through command line, and that's why it's so inefficient to work through the console, and I'm struggling so much because I have almost maybe probably once or twice in the very beginning I used this. The concepts are the same, so you would understand what I mean when we'll go create a VM using Terraform and why you don't necessarily have to come here. All right, create, and I'm pretty sure this is going to take a long time, so I'm going to pause the video and come back. All right, the screen changed and came to this. Your deployment is underway. Now, this is a cool feature, and once it finishes by the end of tomorrow, I will pause now and come back here. All right, so finally, the machine creation is complete, and it calls it a deployment. And so now these details I kind of like because the first time I created this, I was all kind of confused. What's happening? So like you go click, click, click instead of reading every page in detail. Like, trust me, guys, that's normal. I would say that's a sign of a highly intelligent person, just to make you happy and just to make me happy. So the first thing that it did was it created a public IP address. Now, public IP addresses are created outside the network, and then they're associated with networks. Next thing it did was created a security group. Now, what security group is? It's just a rule that's written somewhere. Like, it doesn't need existence of any physical resource to exist. Then it created the virtual network. Then it created a network interface for the virtual network, and then it doesn't say where it created the subnet, but I think that should be part of the creating the VNet. We can look at it here. Create succeeded. Actually, it doesn't show here. But this is for, like, somebody who is beginning to do stuff, and it can help a little bit. Then it created the NIC first in this subnet, and then it assigned to our instance, and that completes our instance creation.